Okay, today I'm in Gibraltar with gaming industry professional Charlie McCann. Charlie, thanks very much for agreeing to talk to us here in these lovely surroundings.
Lovely surroundings. I brought the weather. It's beautiful back in in the UK, and I'm afraid to say, it's awful here, but that's very rare. But thank you, and thank you for having me as well.
Oh, you're welcome. You did mark my card to tell me that it was going to be horrible weather, so I brought a coat. But my card marker tells me that Charlie McCann is a very clever punter, and he does his own thing. So can you elaborate on that?
It's very kind of whoever it was marked your card, but like everybody else, we have our ups and downs. We had a quite successful Cheltenham, I must say, was 10 points to the level stakes of a pound profit, but thought it was very, very enjoyable. But successful, yes, to an extent. I think, like everybody else, I think the landscape has changed and it is more difficult. I also think the older you get, the windier you get as well. I don't mean the wind that's outside. I mean, you think to yourself, well, you know, maybe you don't have the confidence of youth and things like that, and maybe the landscape change and not being maybe able to get on as big as other, you know, and the restrictive nature of the industry as such. But I think more and more, the older you get, I do think you get slightly more conservative, but I've certainly had a good go at it, that's for sure.
You talk about restrictive though, so are you a serious enough punter to have a few quid on when you do bet?
I certainly used to. I would suggest now, Sam, no, not that. I am probably, I'm afraid to say, for some people, one of those who sort of does get on early and sort of takes advantage, should we say, of maybe risks in inverted commas. But you've got to remember, I as a horse racing trader, if I was, I've got to price up every race, you know, the night before, largely. I know they will get their tissues and things like that, but of course, I think one of the things I would recommend for punters is specialism, whether it be a 6 furlong sprint, if that rocks your boat, or maybe chases or handicap chases particularly. I think that gives you an edge over somebody. If you're not particularly interested in juvenile hurdles, I wouldn't know. The first real interest I had was Vauban versus Pied Piper. When Pied Piper won, that was probably the first juvenile hurdle I looked more than glanced at so far this season. It's not really a specialism, and I do think that it gives you the edge. I and traders and everybody has to sort of mark up, you know, let's say for 24 races a day. You don't have to bet in 24 races, and I think that is key. Whether I'm successful, I've certainly had successful times like everybody, and anyone who says that they're successful all the time, of course, you know, well, we have words for that, you know. Nobody is, and you have peaks and troughs. As a punter, I think my most memorable races are defeats. I know it sounds crackers, but the two races I remember most vividly are sort of seconds, and if I was to, I actually think it almost sums up my, you know, you've been with Victor recently, and close but no cigar. I'll always remember one of my first was the 1986, I think it was the 86 Grand National, won by the Captain Forster horse. Oh, his name escapes me. And I'd watched Mr. Snugfit when he was trained by Mick Easterby, and he wasn't in the colours of Terry, the very famous punter who bought the horse. Terry Ramsden. Terry Ramsden bought it the year later when he finished fourth to, I think, West Tip. But the year before, I was in Nottingham and I saw him win. And I used to go into, I was working in the Midlands at the time, and I used to go into a betting shop and have £1 each way, £1 win. And I did this since the Anti-Post book came out for it. And I was absolutely convinced that Mr. Snugfit would win the Grand National. And Captain Forster gave the Last Suspect was the name of the horse. He gave Ewell Davis the instructions. Captain Forster, in this sort of way, said to him, what's the instructions, boss? Ewell Davis asked him, and he said, keep remounting. So that was the confidence behind this thing. And Mr. Snugfit went sort of clear It was in the Arkle colours, of course, and Duchess of Westminster. And he went clear, Mr. Snugfit. And I don't care who you are. And the next thing you know, this Ewell Davis got, and his tail propelled Last Suspect forward. And he didn't just pip him, he collared him halfway up the running. And I always remember that. And I always went into the betting shop or betting shops when I'd put up, and you could almost see everybody looking at me. And a couple of them almost, I mean, your mind is sort of hazy at this stage, almost sort of broke into a round of applause because all those within earshot, I'd suggested this from a long time, that anyway, it didn't win. And the other one was Hawkwing in 2002. 2001, 2002. And I insist they completely tooled up Horsewing's career. Aidan O'Brien is a genius, and he was saying, you should say, who are you? And his stud career would suggest that he was, and his progeny are a bit quirky, shall we say. And I'm sure he was a bit quirky. But how they ran that horse in the Derby on soft ground when they had the winner anyway. But Hawkwing I'd seen win the National Stakes the year before as a juvenile, and I was absolutely convinced this horse will win the Guineas. It's as simple as that, he will win the Guineas. And I was very close with a good friend called Russ Wiseman at the time, and we worked together in Bet Direct in Liverpool at the time. And I remember the Monday I'd backed this horse, and again, similar things, little amounts over a long period of time. And on the Monday, I don't know how, Russ turned around to me and said, I know you still think Hawkwing's got to be pointed in the right direction, but for what it's worth, I've just heard the Rock of Gibraltar is going to run not in the French Guineas. He was always going to go in the French Guineas, but he's going to go in English Guineas. And I said, I couldn't be bothered. And that was one of the worst mistakes I made. And of course, history will tell you that Jamie was maybe a bit overconfident. I don't know, but goodness me, he was trying to catch a really good horse. And that they are the two races, if, looking back, I always remember that, and I'm afraid that, I would almost say that sort of highlights my sort of punting, that for all my knowledge and goodness knows I work at it, I may haven't, you think it's a punter's mentality. Of course we always think, I backed Conflated without Aloha last week. I backed Fraric Delen at 20 to 1 each way, and I backed another horse which came down. So besides you winners, you maybe don't remember as much as your losers. But it was very kind of whoever said that.
So these days, is it purely form study? Do you still price up, or do you get all these shrewdies in Gibraltar marking your card? Is that how it works?
The expression "shrewdies in Gibraltar" is not one that sort of trips off the tongue. I don't. I must say, I don't think that's fair to say that it's hardly the new market for flat racing or sort of Lamborn, whatever. I back my own winners and I back my own losers.
Do you still price races up?
Oh God, no! Please don't think I have a book when I'm doing my sort of chases and things that I will have I'm sorry. I would never say that. But I would have I will write my column the night before, not the night before. So the great thing with 48-hour declarations, I've already sort of can tell you I've backed a horse tomorrow at on 24 hours in advance. With 48-hour declarations, I think that's good. I will have an idea what this horse should be, and if it's below that, so be it. And if it's higher, then that is. But please don't think I think that should be 6 to 4 and things like that, and I've got my 110% book or whatever. I don't. No, and I never have done. I've never been that good. I've never been, and I would never purport. I think some people have described me, going back, not now of course, but going back years as a professional punter. Oh no, never, no.
But you were a winning punter. So how long did it take you to become a winning? How long was your apprenticeship of doing your money before you became successful?
Well, I used to go into the betting shops in Liverpool, and I remember one sort of famous occasion. I was out of my zone, shall we say. Everybody used to know me, and everyone used to sort of always I had a sort of reputation in the local betting shops and things like that. And you, I don't care who you are. Sometimes you have good days and bad days, and I think I'd had a bad day. And somebody came up to me in the betting shop and said, "Have you got a tip for me for today?" And I said, "Yeah, don't smoke in bed." And you know what I'm going to say now. 5 minutes later, he did. Honestly, he did come back and said, "Where's that running?" But how long did it take me? An awful lot of losers. But I still don't think that there's this. I've had too many bets. That's one of my sort of, for somebody, everybody, I think people who know me, I'm not a mug punter, but I probably do have too many. Although I think this notional sort of thing that you only have one bet a week if you're a professional punter, that was never. That's guff. That's guff.
Did working
always has been guff.
Did working in the industry make you a better punter?
Did it? Yes, because I don't care who but you get plenty of losers sort of recommended to you. But of course you get sort of focused, and again, if you are beginning to sort of, you don't want to let people down. I'll always remember, I gave a talk once in the Grand National meeting at Aintree, and it was in the Topham Chase. And I tipped a horse at the Blue, I think it was Josh rather than Josh Gifford. It may be even his son, it may be even Nick's. And it was in the Blue of David Dunstan. And I thought it was a stone bonker. I know it was in the Topham, but I thought it was a certainty. And this guy in the front row said, "What do you think of this horse?" And I should know it. I should know the name of it, because it should be etched on my brain. I said, "Well, I said he's £7 out the handicap. Do you know what that means?" I said, it should be that he should be carrying 9 stone 7 instead he's carrying 10 stone. And he said, "So you don't think it's got much chance?" And I went, "Well, no, I don't really." The first 12 in the bet, this Dunstan horse was clear coming over, going to 4 out, I think, the smallest fence on the course, and fell obviously. And the first 12 in the betting fell. And this horse, of course, it was like the tortoise and the hare. This horse sort of come plodding up, 66 to 1. Anyway, it's fair to say I didn't go back into the box. And you can have too much information, and I've done that many a time, made a horlicks of talks. But I don't care. If you go back into a box and you've tipped a winner, and you think, "Oh God, you're Billy Big Boy," and you think, and but it took a long time, and more importantly, hard work as well. I think I don't think there's any way around it. But I would also say as well that we as punters, again, I don't look at sort of. I don't look at probably 60% of the races the following day. I do now tend to specialise in chases and handicap chases, especially. And one of the things I'm really keen on is weather and things like that, and the BBC weather forecast is appalling. And on the flat, I think again 5 furlong, 6 furlong sprinters, yeah, great, they're for somebody else. Thanks guys, if you please don't even. And a mile, and especially I think 10 furlongs on upwards, and handicaps again. But I tend to, it's more going and the effect of the draw as well. But over 10, 12 furlongs, that would be my bag.